Hello and welcome to Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. This is Stefan, your host, British by birth, American by choice. The Founding Fathers crafted some remarkable documents that led to the creation of a great country founded on liberty and self-reliance. I have lived in the Euro-socialist nightmare, and I'm doing what I can to return this country to the vision that the Founding Fathers gave us. We need to strive to rebuild that shining city on the hill, for without us, the world has nowhere to turn for freedom. For the next hour, I will be presenting news, views, and guests that help keep the true spirit of America alive. And good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're listening to Patrick Come Lately. This is your Patrick Come Lately, Stefan, British by birth, American by choice, welcoming you to episode 208. That's right, 208. And welcome to tonight's show, coming again to you from north of the border. For those of you in the United States, yes, I'm up in the great frozen white north up here. Still pretty frozen, maybe not quite as white. They have had some thaws, but there's still a lot of snow around. Yes, I'm up in the Toronto area, as I've mentioned on a number of earlier shows. Actually, specifically in the city of Mississauga, which is just outside Toronto, just right here on the airport, but right very close, of course, to the hometown of that famous person from Toronto, Rob Ford. He's just as famous up here, or perhaps even more so than in America, but most people up here don't particularly like his fame. It's more like infamy, because he's always getting into trouble. But anyway, a mayoral election coming up this year is going to be interesting. This week on the internet, I found an interesting little slogan, an interesting little picture, and I thought, that matches my show very well, and I may put it on some of my sites, so I think it really does cover what I think I'm doing on this show. I've always said I see this as an educational show, trying to help you with information that you can use, and obviously of a political bent. But this slogan, I think, sums it up. And the slogan went, "I don't share my thoughts because I think it will change the minds of people who think differently. I share my thoughts to show the people who think like me that they are not alone." And I realize a lot of this show is just that, people who think like me. I'm singing to the choir, but we need to know that we're not alone, because we've got a huge battle to fight. And I'm going to start off this evening with a call to arms, because this evening I want to remind you that the midterm elections are only 7 months away. And just remember, so that's only 7 months. So all you conservative, GOP, libertarian groups, you should already be out there, right? Now is the time to get out there. If you're not out there now, you're actually late. You've got to start your get out the vote activities. That isn't just knocking on doors and saying, "Hi, please vote for our candidate." You need to get to know the people. This is what the left does. This is what they do so well. And I've said this before. We have to do the same. We have to take the same approach. We had some good news last week with that special election in Florida. We've got to keep the momentum going. And the way to do that is make friends with the people. The summer is coming up. Organize barbecues. Have the people come over. Don't necessarily talk politics. Just be their friends. You can inject a little bit here and there. Just say this, that, but don't press the issue. But make them your friends. And then when it comes close to the election, you can go to them and say, "Look, really like you to support our candidate. Please do that," or our group, or our party. Do it that way. One of the things we have to do is we have to show them that we're not the party of no, N-O, but we're the party of no, K-N-O-W. As in, we know what is wrong, and we know what to do to fix it. So here's some ideas that you can do, and I've said this before, but as I said, this call to arms, I want to remind folks, 7 months till the midterm. There's a lot to do. Find a group or a candidate and start supporting them. Give them your time. It doesn't cost you much. It just costs you a little bit of your time. If you can, give them your money, but I know times are hard. Thank you, King Barry. But time is, a lot of the time, is for free. Give it that, and it is very much appreciated. Join groups like True the Vote. I talked about them a few shows ago. Learn how to be a poll watcher. Help keep our elections honest. Or volunteer for poll duty. Now, when you go into the polls and work there, you may find that you're surrounded by regressives. But keep your head down. Just don't let them know, right? Don't get into arguments with them. Just keep your head down and watch. Keep quiet and watch. Document what you see, right? Remember, cell phones have cameras. But remember, only use them if legal. So don't do illegal recording or to record illegal activity, because the latter is exigent circumstances. This means the law can be broken in order to prevent other illegal activity happening. This is the excuse that the police always use when they batter down doors. They say, well, we had to do it. We couldn't wait for a warrant. Those are exigent circumstances. Same thing with recording illegal activity going on. Above all, keep the faith, keep positive, and share your message and optimism. If you do, you'll find it courageous, and people around you will catch on. And you know what? We are going to have a great midterm, and we are going to have a great 2016. So keep it going, folks. And just as a reminder, last week we had some good news, but with all the brouhaha about the Florida special election, there was some other very good news that happened, I think, a couple of weeks before that. And this was in Connecticut. Now, as you know, in Connecticut has recently enacted very strict new gun laws, but the resistance against them is growing and growing. Connecticut gun owners are participating in one of the largest demonstrations of civil disobedience, and people just refusing to register their guns as they were supposed to, and the police are threatening to batter down doors and come and confiscate the guns. People are just, thousands and thousands of people are just refusing to register them. Now, in a state election, a pro-Second Amendment candidate running as a Republican just won the Connecticut's 53rd district, a district which had been held by anti-gun Democrats for 40 years. So he was running as a Second Amendment candidate. And now we've got the voters actually standing behind him and electing him in. Folks, does that send a message to the left? I think it does. Add that to Florida, they must be shaking in their boots. More election news. There was there were primary elections in Illinois tonight, or today. The results came out tonight, and I believe they had been called. The Democratic primary was an obvious win for Pat Quinn. I'm looking at some results from about an hour ago. 50% of the polls. Quinn was 74 to 26 to his nearest opponent. On the GOP side, Bruce Rona seems to be winning. He was 41 to 37 over Kirk Dillard, and then other candidates below that. So looks like it'll be a Quinn-Rona election in November. Sounds interesting. Will Will Mr. Quinn suffer the same fate of other Democrats, or is it just so corrupt there in Illinois that Rona doesn't have a choice? And I don't know what kind of campaign he's been waging. Bruce Rona apparently is a very, very rich person, and of course he's being painted much like the Koch brothers and Mitt Romney as one of those rich people who's totally out of touch with everything. I don't know what kind of campaign he's running, but if I were him, what I would say, you know, folks, I'm so rich, I don't need all the graft and all the corruption that goes on in this state. And of course, they are, you know, Illinois is well known for that. I don't need all this graft and corruption. I've got enough money, so elect me. I'm going to clean things up because I don't need to corrupt people. And I think that would be really the way to go. It'd be interesting to see if he could get in and defeat a Democrat there. Okay, the main theme of tonight's story, the end is nigh. The end of open enrollment is coming. Next week will basically be the last few days, and we'll have another look at the numbers. But right now, the prognosis is that they will end up probably just slightly north or south of the 5 million mark. Now, originally, there'd been some numbers bandied around of needing 7 million people to really sort of get things going. That was the intention. You know, folks, I look at that and I say, 7 million people. Remember all the hullabaloo about all these 30 million people who didn't have insurance, and we had to have Obamacare to cover them, and now we're happy with 7 million. But okay, so be it. But if we're happy with 7 million, then what are we with 5 million? Nobody's happy. Last week I talked about some of the numbers, but I want to reiterate this because I think this is going to be one of the main themes of the midterm elections, and possibly even 2016, I hope 2016. And that is the following, that first of all, they didn't reach the numbers. Secondly, the numbers that are there, apparently it seems that only a very small percentage, 10 to 20% maximum, are people who didn't have insurance previously. In other words, a majority of the people in that 5 million are people who lost their insurance because of the Obamacare rules that forced the insurance companies to throw them out of their existing policies, the policies which we were supposed to be able to keep if we liked them. And like I said, remember that message. If you like your policy, you can keep it. If you like your doctor, you can keep him. Just remind people how much of a lie was put forth, not just by dear leader, but also all the minions, all the lackeys around him, all those congressmen, all those senators who said, yeah, right, if you can like your policy, you can keep it. If you like your doctor, you can keep it. They all parroted the Regressives central office talking points, and now they're going to get stung for it. So, and I think one of the good ones is Mary Landrieu, who said, well, and this, I think this was last year or maybe even the year before, said, you know, if you don't like it, you can vote us out. Well, guess what, Mary dear? I think you're going to find out that those words are going to come back to bite you, because that's exactly what's going to happen to you. Anyway, so the latest report shows that, first of all, only 5 million enrolled. Of that, most of them are people who lost their insurance. There are not very many new ones. The demographics are all skewed. They were supposed to have, I think, somewhere between, well, they were saying, first of all, 40%, but other people are saying, well, if we got 35, 33% young people, that's in the main demographic, sort of 18 to 40, that would be okay. They're way down on that. It's 15, 20%. Exact numbers aren't possible, because every time you ask the government, the administration, the regime, they just, they don't know. You know, this is typical government bureaucracy. They put this all into place, all these rules, regulations, but they can never manage it. They don't know what's going on. They're just totally clueless with everything. But anyway, estimates are that only about 20% of the people who have signed up are in that important demographic to pay for it all. What does that mean? Well, first of all, let's look. It is the end of open enrollment, and then we'll have a look at what it might mean from a cost point of view and a price point of view in the coming future. First of all, for the open enrollment coming up, right? We've said they're close to being at 5 million. So unless we get some huge surge in these last, we're 18. So we've got about 12 days, so a little bit under 2 weeks left to the end of the month. Unless we get a huge surge, and they'd have to sign up, probably 2 or 3 times the rate that people have been signing up over the last few months to go anything very much above that 5 million. Again, total disaster. But we will be following it because, like I said, I think this is probably one of the most important things. The regime is very glad that we have this Malaysian Airlines flight to divert our attention from Obama curse, but that attention will be coming back, and we just need to keep it bubbling along and then bring it back up in August, September, October time frame and slam it home, folks. And that's what we need to do. But we will find out in a few days, right? 10, 12, 14 days. We'll know exactly what happened, and we'll just know how really bad it is. Now, if those numbers stay the way they are, what does it mean? First of all, the pools that the so-called free market insurance companies were basically forced into, and the kind of product that they were forced to give. So free market, come on, pull the other leg. It's got bells on. But these free market companies haven't calculated their costs, haven't calculated their profits, haven't calculated how they will cover all of this based on these low numbers. And especially they haven't calculated in the fact that young people are not flocking to Obamacare as Emperor Barry really thought they would do, or Emperor Barry and his lackeys. So what will that mean? Well, that'll mean at the end of this year, when the insurance companies need to start calculating what the new rates will be, they're going to jump up a bunch. And people are going to be screaming blue murder. And hopefully, and I know Obama is trying to avoid this, but those rate hikes are going to be made known. They need to be known sort of 60, 90 days ahead of time, and that's just before the midterm elections. I hope there's a whole slew of them, because people will be screaming blue murder, and you can imagine what that's going to do to the election chances for all those regressives. But we will see, right? I've seen some calculations now. They're talking about a few percentage points increases. I think it's going to be a lot worse than that, and people will really be complaining about what's going on when those rates come out. But we'll see what happens during the summer. Like I said, we need to keep this meme alive. We need to keep these messages going out and reminding people about the lies that were told to push this through, and really also basically to get Obama re-elected. It was all around, let's face it, at the end of the line, it was about Obamacare, and Mitt Romney, because of his Massachusetts background, would not fight on Obamacare. If we'd have fought on Obamacare and Benghazi, we could have won, but those were the two things that he refused to fight on, and that was really, really a mess. What will happen in the midterms? Well, if we can keep this Obama curse message going out, yes, there'll be a lot of problems for the Democrats, and if we can have those rate hikes come out shortly before the elections, then yes, then that will definitely kind of be the final nails in the coffin of the Democrats, and hopefully that will lead to us being able to take back the Senate, keep the House, and wouldn't it be great if we could not just take back the Senate, if we could get the 60 seats in the Senate, so we could then repeal Obamacare Now, we know that King Barry will actually veto it, but hopefully at that time then people will say, oops, and when we bring it back again, we'll get the 66, the supermajority that we need, because a number of Democrats will say, I'm jumping ship and I'm going to go with that. Okay, folks, time for the first commercial break. So stick with me. I will be back after these messages.
Are you paying too much for your car insurance policy? Have you shopped your current plan in the last year? If you haven't, then you probably are paying too much. You could save up to 40% on your current car insurance coverage just by making a free call right now. Doesn't it make good sense to pay less for something you have to pay for anyway? And car insurance is one of those things. You got to have car insurance, whether you have one car or 10 cars. So why not see if you can pay a lot less for it right now? One quick 3-minute call, and you could save hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. We'll compare the leading car insurance companies and get you coverage that could save you up to 40% on your car insurance. Call now for a free quote. Call 800-603-9980. 800-603-9980. 800-603-9980. 800-603-9980. That's 800-603-9980.
Are you tired of commuting to a job that makes someone else rich? Working harder than ever, but getting nowhere? Do you hate spending hundreds of dollars every week on daycare? Having someone else raise your children? With our opportunities, you can start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss, work from home, and live a happier life. At Be the Boss Network, you'll find hundreds of work-from-home opportunities that you can literally start today and be earning money as soon as next week. Go to freedom112.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss. Get out of the rat race. Work from home. Go to freedom112.com right now and change your life today. That's freedom112.com. Go to freedom112.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You be the boss. Go to freedom112.com.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And thanks for sticking with me through that break. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately. We have a new topic that I'd like to start with, so let's do that. And this one, let's go to the IRS. Now we know all about the mess that the IRS got itself into with all this targeting of right-wing, Tea Party, conservative, religious groups. And we thought, well, we found them out, they'll have to stop. Well, guess what, folks? They haven't stopped a single thing. They're continuing to go on. So, just unbelievable how autocratic this regime is, and just continuing to do the things that really we would never expect to happen here in the US. We might expect them to happen in a banana republic, but not here. So, here's something completely different about the IRS. For an organization that's never really enjoyed a good reputation, even in the good days, never mind the bad days, but in the good days, it didn't have a good reputation amongst the American people. But it has now come to light that they're also a partisan tool being used for un-American activities. Yes, okay, well, what's going on there? Okay, well, let's have a look at this. In 2008, there was a policeman named Mohammed Weiss Rasul. Note the name there, Mohammed Weiss Rasul. That kind of gives you an indication in which direction this is going, right? Was prosecuted and convicted by the Justice Department in federal court for using his access to the FBI's system in order to warn a terrorist suspect that he was being watched. Well, if your name is Mohammed Wais Rasul, yeah, what kind of terrorist suspect might you be supporting? Yeah, just put 2 and 2 together and get 400, right. Due to the fact that he warned this terrorist suspect, the investigation was severely affected. Now, that was 2008. Now we're 6 years further down the road, and this person has changed his name. He is now Wais Russell, and he is working for the IRS as a financial management analyst out of the IRS Deputy Chief's Financial Officer's office. So he's up there in the management of the IRS. Now, prosecutors had sought jail time for Russell when he was Wais Rasul, but a judge sentenced him to just 2 years. Yes, because he's a poor Muslim, and we have to be nice to them. So he just got 2 years probation. Ah, poor guy. And he was a police officer, but due to an internal affairs investigation, he resigned, fired, but he was allowed to resign in August of 2008. Now, so here's someone who was convicted of assisting a terrorist, having carried out criminal actions on their behalf. How would they even be able to work in the federal government? You forget, folks, terrorism and Muslim goes together. That needs to be at the top of your resume. You want to get a job in the government today, you got to have those on there, otherwise you won't get the job. On top of that, he abused his trust with the government database in accessing it to aid those terrorists. And now he's in the IRS, where he has even more critical access to the personal data of all of us, millions of Americans. Well, at least those millions that still pay taxes, because remember, half the country doesn't pay tax anymore. Now, I have done work at the IRS many, many years ago, and I know that in order to work there, you go through a fairly stringent background check. They do check a lot of information, and part of that is checking your police record. An IRS official also told PJ Media, where I got this news from, of course anonymously, because he wouldn't dare do that out in the open, but said that the position of financial management analyst would have required the completion of a standard Form 86 questionnaire for national security positions, and an extensive background check would have been conducted. So I suspect that that level had an even more extensive check than the one that I went through, which was MBR, minimal background, or MBI, minimal background investigation. And I believe at that time it was police record and financial record, basically just to make sure you're not, you're not a deadbeat things. So this anonymous IRS official said there was no way for anyone with Russell's record of abuse of access to a government database and a terror investigation to have been satisfactorily vetted and approved for hire without some kind of intervention on his behalf. Do you hear it, folks? That's where we're going. The fact that he changed his name would have made no difference. This hiring was not the result of an innocent mistake. It was a deliberate act by someone with the influence to make it happen. It is quite possibly only the tip of a personnel iceberg at the IRS, and I believe many other government departments. The Regressives, but especially the Muslim-led group, and people say, well, president's not a Muslim. Well, but how come then all of a sudden so many Muslims are being slid into the regime left, right, and center? So the IRS is doing what somebody in the regime wants in harassing conservative groups and then hiding it from the public at large, and also by hiring these people of questionable background. So it looks like now they're just looking for people with criminal and terrorist backgrounds, and there you are. And of course, we've seen also, I mentioned last week, that so many refugees are being imported from the Middle East, Muslim refugees, whereas Christian refugees find it very difficult to get a visa. Folks, what's going on? There is something wrong with this government. Something is rotten in the state of Denmark. Something is rotten in the District of Columbia. Folks, time for the next commercial break. I'll be back.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-865-5017. That's 1-800-865-5017. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-865-5017 for details.
Why spend more than you have to on your life insurance? Did you know that term life insurance rates have fallen over 60% in the last 15 years? At the Life Insurance Quote Line, we monitor the rates, features, and financial strength of hundreds of life insurance products. For example, a healthy 40-year-old can protect his family with $500,000 of 10-year level term for less than $20 a month. Rates for women are even lower. And don't forget to ask us about the new term life policies that guarantee your money back even if you don't die. Since 1986, we've helped tens of thousands of people just like you save a fortune on their life insurance. Why not find out how much you can save? Write down this number and call today for your free quote. 1 5-minute call is all it takes. Call 800-915-9734. 800-915-9734. That's 800-915-9734. Rates, policy forms, and availability vary by state.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us.
Patriot come lately. British by birth, American by choice. Just like the Founding Fathers. The voice of the conservative resistance.
If you would like to comment on any of the topics discussed on the show, please email me via stephan@patriotcomelately.us or go to the show's website www.patriotcomelately.us and click on the contact button. You can also write your comments on the show's Facebook page. Just search in Facebook for the Patriot Come Lately Show. So send me your emails. I love to hear from my listeners. I'll try and answer you direct. I'll try and answer you in the show. Really like to hear from you. Okay, so let's go on. And I can't remember whether I handled this particular point last week. I think I may have done, but it's such an interesting one. My apologies to regular listeners. I do want to handle it again. And this was some good news. So let's have a nice little good news start. And what it was that 6 states filed suit against California. And basically what they were saying, they don't want to be at the whim of California's voters. So what happened was in California, they passed a law which had a cage-free requirement for egg-laying hens, which is going into effect in 2015. Now, as a state, and we all believe in the 10th Amendment and states' right, if the state wants to do that, that's up to them. That's their prerogative. However, the Californian law also said that any eggs sold in California have to come from hens that comply with this law of cage-free hens. And this is where these 6 states have said, well, folks, we're not going to accept that because we feel that this violates the Constitution's Commerce Clause. Because it's basically California is telling other states how they have to do business. And that is against the Commerce Clause. That is the argument which I sincerely believe in. At the end of the line, California has every right to insist that hen farmers in their part of the world have cage-free hens, but they can't require other states to do it. Because if they start doing that, then what's next? Right? Farmers, pork and cattle farmers, are worried about how the changes required for the poultry farmers, that could put a damper on other animal farming, because now cattle, pigs, etc., are going to have very different rules, even if they're not being farmed in California. And as one of the Attorney General of the state said, we can't have our farmers and ranchers at the whim of California voters. If you think about it, that's exactly what they're doing. They're imposing their will on other states. And we have states' rights, and each state has their own right, and then right to do, but also the right to butt out of other states' business. So anyway, we'll see where that ends up. Be interesting to see what happens. Now, let's talk about some other things. And we all know about government motors, and we all know about how the Fed, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, is always chasing after people like Toyota and this and that car company because of problems with throttle sticking and this happening and that happening, and always insisting that they have to take action immediately and do recalls, etc. However, in the case of government motors, federal investigators have declined for over a decade to investigate consumer complaints about GM vehicles that have their motors turned off while being driven because of faulty ignition switches. Yes, you see, if you're Government Motors, you can do things that other companies aren't allowed to do. Talk about crony capitalism. This is just another example of how corrupt and how crony capitalist this particular regime is. They talk, the few times they talk about the free market, they're not talking about a free market, they're talking about crony capitalism, which is just a hairbreadth away from socialism. Actually, people will know in my show, I've said this before, I know a lot of people disagree, but I will continue to say it. Crony capitalism is actually a hair's breadth away from fascism. Now, people say, oh, but big difference between socialism and fascism. Look at the Nazi socialist. What was their name? The Nazis, Nazi socialism. They were socialist. Very, very similar, whether it's socialism, fascism, all it means is tyranny. That's really the main word. Anyway, so the National Highway and Traffic Safety Administration, one of these another overreaching government bodies that pretends to be doing good but is really just the nanny state again, had received over 250 complaints about the sudden vehicle shutdowns, but repeatedly said there's not enough evidence of a problem to warrant an investigation. Now, in actual fact, these faulty ignition switches have been linked to 13 fatal accidents by GM. So where's the uproar, folks? No, this is Government Motors. Remember, folks, so everybody sweeps it under the rug. Folks, this is just another example of why things are just so wrong with this administration. And some more. You may remember a while back we complained about Sibelius doing some politicking when she was in her role as Health and Human Services Secretary, and she was doing drumming up support for Obama and Obamacare at the election. But she'd actually been doing more, because Fox News discovered that she'd been doing some under-the-radar fundraising for a pro-Obamacare group. This pro-Obamacare group, Enroll America, was approached by Fox News and asked about claims that Sibelius was making calls to non-profit organizations to raise money for its Unaffordable Care Act awareness campaigns. Fox News was told there was no truth to the tip, but when they got some FOIA emails, it turned out that officials privately were acknowledging that it was accurate, and the emails which they managed to get hold of had things like a subject line, urgent, press inquiry from Fox News, and they were talking about what was happening and what should be suppressed. Fox News didn't get that information, but the Washington Post did more investigation and actually managed to break the story that Sibelius had made multiple phone calls to health industry executives, community organizations and church groups, asking them to fund non-profit efforts to increase awareness of Obamacare. Well, as you know, it is not permitted for government officials to participate in political activities, and yet this is a political activity. Fox News was trying to get more information by filing a FOIA act, and the agency wrote back, no responsive records were located in response to your request. After 3 months, when FOIA requests are supposed to be replied to in a much shorter time frame. Again, more evidence of corruption on the part of those in DC and that are working for the regime. They just say, well, yeah, but that's low-level people. Folks, this comes from the top. It is an attitude that pervades the whole regime. the whole administration that is driven down for the top, and people at lower level, they know what they have to do to ingratiate themselves with their superiors. They know what their superiors want. How do their superiors know what they want? Because they go up the chain. It goes right to the top. Folks, we have to stop this. But at the moment, I'm going to stop talking because it is time for the next commercial break. Here we go.
Are you at least 62 years old like me? Could you use an extra $50,000, $100,000 or more to live a better life? Then please consider the benefits a reverse mortgage can provide to you. With a reverse mortgage, you can have your mortgage payments stopped altogether and get equity out of your home to live on. And you can use the money to help you live a better life. How nice would that be, not to have a mortgage payment? Qualifying for a reverse mortgage is simple, since there are no income, asset, employment, or credit requirements. However, you must be 62 years or older, own your home outright, or have a very low balance on the mortgage, and be prepared to live in it throughout the rest of the loan. Call now for more information.
800-704-1662. 800-704-1662. 800-704-1662. That's 800-704-1662.
I will never forget the day my son Jeremy told me he hated me and slammed the door in my face. I'm behavioral therapist Janet Lehman. Behavior problems can turn the child you love and your life into a nightmare. That's why my husband James and I created the Total Transformation, the step-by-step program that shows you how to fix the worst behavior problems and get your child to respect and listen to you again. No matter what the behavior, defiance, backtalk, angry outbursts, disrespect, we can help you stop it. Now you can get the Total Transformation for free. All you need to do is get the program and let us know how it works for you. You can keep it forever for free.
Limited number of free programs available. Call now. 1-800-259-1409. 1-800-259-1409. 1-800-259-1409. That's 1-800-259-1409.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And folks, thanks for sticking with me. This is the last segment of the show. Hope you've enjoyed the news to date. Got a few more minutes and want to talk about the following. And again, this is something that has been mentioned before, but I came across it as kind of a reminder. And I thought, yeah, folks, we need to be reminded about these sort of things, because with everything bad about Obamacare, there's a bunch of stuff that hasn't even surfaced yet, and we need to be reminded about that. At least that's what I feel. So I'm going to do that. So on to the next topic, and hopefully somewhere along the line the penny will drop. Anyway, so our next topic is a reminder that Obamacare actually allows warrantless home invasions. Home visits, it's called. And this is a reminder that in Obamacare, or the Unaffordable Care Act, there is an ability for government agents to engage in what they call home health visits for those in certain high-risk categories. These categories include families where the mother is not yet 21, families where someone is a tobacco user. That's a high-risk family. Okay. Families where children have low student achievement, developmental delays, or disabilities, and families with individuals who are serving or formerly served in the armed forces, including such families that have members of the armed forces who have had multiple deployments outside the United States. In other words, if you serve your country, you become an at-risk person or a risk-causing person, and your family is at risk. What a slap in the face for our vets. But what about all the other ones, right? Now, the HHS says the visits fall under what is called the Maternal, Infant and Early Childhood Home Visiting Program, allegedly designed to help parents and children, but it could impact millions of Americans, and they can come into your house without a warrant under these laws. And a constitutional attorney says, despite what HHS says, the program is not voluntary. In other words, if you don't let them in, then they will just assume that something nefarious is going on. You are guilty until proven innocent, and they will come and do whatever they want to do, take away your children, force your children to go to a different school, right? The law says the eligible entity receiving the grant for performing the home visits is to identify the individuals to be visited and intervene so as to meet the improvement benchmarks. Talk about gobbledygook. A homeschooling family, for instance, may be subject to intervention in school readiness and social emotional development indicators. In other words, they will find a way to say, well, your homeschooling doesn't meet our requirements, and with this school readiness and social emotional development indicators. In other words, if your children are more normal than all the kids in the governmental school, that will be held against you. A farm family may be subject to intervention in order to prevent child injuries. I mean, this just allows them almost to do anything they want, but that's what they want. They want to have that way. So while the administration would claim the program only applies to those on Medicaid, the new law, the Unaffordable Care Act, has no such limitation. So it's one of these things, well, we wrote the law this way, but we're only going to apply it this way. Well, if you think about, let's think about this. I mentioned here, homeschooling family being subject to intervention in school readiness and social emotional development indicators. What about Justina Pelletier in Boston, who was taken from her parents because the doctors at one hospital disagreed with the diagnosis and treatment of a doctor in another hospital, and she's now been out of her family's care and apparently getting sicker in the Boston General Hospital, and she's been out of their care for a year and a half. I mean, this is just government overreach gone mad. This is just absolutely unbelievable. So basically, intervention may be with any family for any reason. It may also result in the child or children being required to go to certain schools or taking certain medications and vaccines and having more limited or no interaction with the parents, which is exactly what happened to Justina. The federal government is now setting the standards for raising children and will enforce them by home visits. Again, the nanny state, the government is taking over. Folks, this is what the message I'm trying to share with you. I know I'm singing to the choir, but it's important, folks. Please do remember, you need to spread this message. You need to tell the people what's going on. Do you see all of this in the lamestream media? No. So tell people, befriend people, start slowly. But once they trust you, once they know you, and you can bring this sort of information to them, we will get more and more voters on our side. People don't like Obamacare, and if we can throw this into the mix as well, we will cement in their minds that Obamacare is something that has to be gotten rid of. Okay, folks, we're getting very close to the end of the show. I want to thank you for joining me. Sorry, for those of you that listen live, apologies. I know I started late. I had some network problems tonight. Try and avoid that again next week. So please do join me. It's always fun talking to you. I think I hear the music starting here. It's time to say TTFN, ta-ta for now. See you next week. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the show. I hope that you enjoyed tonight's topics. Whether you listened live, to a recording, or to a rebroadcast, I appreciate the time you share with me. We need to spread the message of liberty far and wide, so please tell your friends and family about the show. Thank you for helping to keep the beacon of hope burning. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, signing off. God bless America, and remember, L3, long live liberty.
Patriot Come Lately. British by birth, American